if you're going to have effective communication, you're going to be able to work through and have conflict resolution that's coming to a solution of how are we going to work this out, especially when it comes to marriage. How are we going to work this problem out? If the problem is between the two of you, there needs to be some conflict resolution. Sometimes the emotions that we express and bring into our relationship is an external thing, but this is how we manage our relationship is through conflict resolution. And then again, another one is empathy and understanding.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Master Level Marriage Podcast, where we discuss all things marriage and where you can discover the tools that you need to have a strong and healthy relationship. Our host, author, and marriage coach, Dr. Ronnie Gaines, will unpack many facets of a marital relationship as he dives into the dynamics of a marriage. In each episode, you will learn what it takes to succeed in your relationship and win in your marriage. Whether you are in the planning stages or have been married for several years, our desire is to help you grow and enrich your life as a couple and become a success story. Subscribe or follow us and be notified of each episode. Please leave us a review and help us help other couples. For more information, visit www.masterlevelmarriage.com. Thanks for checking us out. Now here's your host, Dr. Ronnie Gaines.
Welcome back to the Master Level Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Ronnie Gaines, and I'm so glad that you're here with me on this show today. Hey, we're getting close to 1,000 downloads, and I'm so grateful for you for downloading these episodes. I hope you have enjoyed them. I would love to hear your remarks, your comments, suggestions. If you will just go down below and click on the link, leave us a comment, leave a review, let us know that you're there. And just as some of these episodes have stemmed from some conversations, some comments that I've had from other listeners, we will also tackle something that you would like to hear. And so thank you for being on the show with us. I want to say thank you to all of those students of mine out there that have been listening to the podcast and referring others to listen to it as well. If you like what you hear, I would ask that you refer this to someone. Let them know that this podcast is available. This is all about marriage, and I'm excited that we are into the podcast shows where we are. We're working towards the 20 mark. And I can't believe that we're already getting close to 20 episodes. And on the 25th episode, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to have a guest on the show. And I'm looking forward to Brent Sharp being on the show with me. He's a great friend of mine. He's a marriage therapist, has been for I think over 40 years. Him and his wife, Janice, both have been doing counseling, not just marriage, but all kinds of counseling for well over like 40 years, I think. So, man, that's a long time. And they're very good at what they do. They're very kind. They're very compassionate. And I'm looking forward to them being on the show, especially him. I don't know for sure if Janice is going to be there yet or not, but I know Brent will. And I've asked him to talk about a topic called the Magic 4% that he created. I think you'll enjoy that. And it really is about what we do every week. It's that magic 4% of our time throughout the week. That's all I'm going to tell you. You got to watch the show. You got to listen to the show and hear Brent Sharp and myself as we talk through this strategy. Yeah, I'm so thankful that over the last couple of weeks we've really dove into some things that I deal with a lot, and that's emotional intelligence. And sometimes I just go, I'm really dramatic. My wife says I'm dramatic. My daughter says I'm really dramatic, and her son's dramatic, and I think that it gains momentum as it goes. But it really is important that we keep our emotions in check and keep them managed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be somewhat anxious. about things is what I call more concern rather than anxious. The scripture even tells us, if we read the Bible, it says, don't worry about anything. Don't be anxious for anything. Instead, pray about everything. And praying is one way that I bring myself down off the ledge many times, because my emotions rise and I have a tendency to be a little bit overboard, and I have to really keep those in check. And, I've never been that wild where I, hit things or anything like that. But I am verbal a lot of times, and I express myself dramatically. So I have to really watch that. And, I deal with a lot of clients right now that are dealing with this very thing. I've been talking about emotional intelligence to them. I've been teaching them some aspects of it. I talk about my own weaknesses in handling sometimes my emotions. And so I feel like I'm learning with my clients, and I'm learning with you as we talk about it on this show. And so I hope you've enjoyed. If you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to the last 2 episodes. This is part 3 of emotional intelligence. And we're going to cover the second 2, or the last 2 domains of emotional intelligence. Now, I kind of grouped the first 2 domains together, and they do go together. And then the last 2 will go together as well. But I do want to go back for just a moment and read this definition that I've kind of come up with, and I haven't just come up with it out of the top of my head. I've looked at some different aspects of emotional intelligence and have done some research, and so I kind of developed this definition based off of just learning some things about emotional intelligence. And this the definition basically says this, that emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage, and effectively use one's own emotions and the emotions of others to navigate social interactions. Again, I said this before in the last show, we don't live in a vacuum when it comes to us. We are in relationships every day. We're social creatures. Now, there may be some that are complete hermits, that are never around people, and maybe they have a dog. I don't know. But for the most part, the majority, I would say mostly, everybody you come into contact with deals with other people. And it matters how we handle our emotions, and we're not only recognizing and understanding our own emotions, but we're recognizing and understand the emotions of others. And this, when we understand and recognize, and we'll get into this in just a moment when it comes to social awareness, is that once we understand and we recognize others' emotions, then it helps us navigate. Once we put ours into check and we're able to, like last week we talked about the self-awareness and then self-management. When we do that, and then we apply these last 2 domains, we're able to navigate social interactions very smoothly, and we won't navigate through these social interactions without some kind of emotions, anger, frustration, anxiety. You can name off several different emotions that you will experience when you're dealing with people. I deal with people all the time, and I tell you, the frustration just dealing with someone else, and a lot of times the frustration is because I don't agree with them, or they don't do things the way that I do things. And it can be very frustrating. And, even my wife, I don't agree with everything that she believes. And, we just don't agree on everything together. And we get frustrated with each other, and we get frustrated with the emotions. A lot of times our emotions come out in our body language. We roll our eyes, we sigh, we flail our arms. And so our emotions need to be under control. I know many people who have gone so far overboard with their emotions, they let their emotions take control of them to the point where they hit something, they put their fist through the wall, they tear up something, they bust phones, they break something because their emotions become the controller. And you have to take control of your emotions, and you have to bring them under management. When you can bring them under management, you have such a better controlled life. And again, it's the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and effectively use your own emotions and the emotions of someone else to navigate social interactions and also to build relationships, and helps you make well-informed decisions. When you regulate, first of all, let's recognize. I don't want to go back and talk about everything to do with last week's. Go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it or watched it. But it's all about recognizing your emotions and understanding them, and then you're able to manage them. But when you bring your emotions into check, you will make better decisions. You'll make better, well-informed decisions. You can't think clearly when your mind's in a state of psychological tension. It's difficult to think clearly, think rationally. And in our marriage, many times we argue and we fight, and things get out of hand. We say things we shouldn't have said, and we say hurtful things. John Gottman calls these negative interactions, he calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which could ultimately lead into the end of your marriage. He calls them contempt, he calls them criticism, he calls them defensiveness, and he calls it stonewalling. And many times we let our emotions get so far out of control that we say things in contempt to our wife or our husband. We criticize. Many times we become defensive in the fact that we start saying things like, "Well, I guess it's all my fault." Have you ever said that? I have. "Well, I guess it's my fault," knowing that you don't really believe that. But our emotions take control instead of us taking control. And when we can learn how to bring our emotions in control, and we get better at it, we'll start recognizing these off-the-wall emotions that are getting ready to take flight before we give them wings. And we take them under control. And we don't say the hurtful things. We say the necessary things. We don't use contempt. We don't use criticism, but we say the necessary things to get healing and to get resolution. The whole idea is to get resolution rather than win. Most of us want to win. This is why we fight. This is why we argue, because we think we need to win the argument. We think we need to win the fight. We don't need to win. We need to get resolution. If only one of us wins, somebody loses. So what we want to do is we want to be assertive in a way where we bring our emotions under control, and we both win. We win through a resolution. So again, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and effectively use your own emotions and the emotions of others. You're not controlling the emotions; you're using them. You're being an influence, but you're using their emotions in a way that you can connect them to your emotions and navigate interactions, build relationships, and ultimately make well-informed decisions. And I think this is what it's about. This is even something we need to teach our kids, how to control those emotions, be emotionally intelligent so we can make well-informed decisions. We say the right things, not bad things. There's things that need to be said, but we just need to say the right things. So I want to take you into the last 2 domains. We've talked about self-awareness, self-management. Now we're going to talk about the other group, which is social awareness and relationship management. And when it comes to social awareness, the first thing that I want you to see is we have to understand each other's emotions. Recognize their emotions. Listen, I know exactly what I can do to push the button to my wife to send her over the edge. That's not the key to a great argument. That's not the key thing to do to get to maneuver through a great conflict. We're going to have conflict. That's inevitable. But it's to journey and maneuver through the conflict in a way we get resolution and not hurt each other or set the other one's emotions off. So when it comes to social awareness, we have to understand each other's emotions. We need to be socially aware, which really does involve recognizing, and not just recognizing, but empathizing with each other's emotions. If we can have empathy. I was talking to someone today that I've been counseling, actually been consulting in a way, and they were talking about the conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago about emotional intelligence and how they were dealing with someone else's emotions. And they were trying to figure out how to handle that because the other person's emotion. Remember, we don't operate in a vacuum. The emotions of the other person was driving them insane. And they were, and this person would walk into the room, and it's just like, as soon as they walked into the room, it just causes this darkness to be over the room just because of the other person's emotions. And the other person was dealing with some things. And so as I began to talk to this one particular person, I said, when they walk into the room and they express these emotions, you can't change their emotions. But what you can do is you become socially aware of their emotions. And when you become socially aware of what they're going through, you may not know all the details, but you know they've got to be going through something to be acting the way they're acting. Have some grace. Have some grace for the other person, and have empathy for them in a way. You may not understand what they're going through. Sympathy is different. Sympathy is whenever you have gone through what they've gone through. You don't know what they're going through, but have empathy for them and some grace. And when you start having this empathy and you start recognizing that there could be something external outside of the room that's causing them to express these emotions the way they're expressing them, and I begin to have empathy for them, then we start fostering these deep understandings and connection. We're able to connect with them. We can actually help them heal. Well, the second thing about social awareness is this cultural sensitivity, respecting each other's backgrounds, where they come from, their FOO, their family of origin. If we can just be sensitive to our spouse's background, their what they've gone through. Maybe they've gone through something. Maybe they've experienced something in their past, and we don't understand it. Then, if we could just be sensitive, then this will promote support for them. That they'll understand that they're heard, and that's the key thing, is to be heard and understood. And I think this is how we hear, and when we hear and understand them, then we start showing them that we're aware of their emotions. The last thing that I want you to see from social awareness as we become aware of other people's emotions is that it fosters harmony and collaboration. And some of this may seem repetitive, but when we understand, we recognize and understand someone else's emotion, we have empathy for them, and we're sensitive to maybe something that caused the issue, that caused them to go overboard. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that they're right by going over the edge. They need to control their emotions. They need to have self-awareness and self-management as well. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that we have some grace and some empathy, and we're sensitive to maybe something that's caused them to be where they are, to get where they are. Then we're able to foster some harmony together, and we hear and understand them, and they when our spouse understands that we're hearing them, they may realize that we may not agree with them. We feel like they're going overboard. I know many times my wife has exposed my to me. She's exposed my overreaction. At first, I want to get frustrated, and first I want to get aggravated because she's calling me out on it. But when she has empathy for me and she says, "Hey, babe, I understand," it helps form harmony in our marriage. I feel like that she's not against me. She's not agreeing with what I'm doing, but she's not against me. She has my back. And we're allies. We are in this together. So if we can have some kind of social awareness where we show empathy and we're sensitive, then we start building this harmony, and then we are able to collaborate together a solution to help us work through our problems, whatever the problem may be. And the problem may be external, outside, something else that has caused it. But then we work through it together. We help each other bring our emotions into check. And this is how we actually influence each other, is through these particular things of social awareness, is whenever we are able to understand their emotions, have some kind of empathy, grace, and sensitivity to maybe something that caused it, then we're able to be in harmony and work together to solve it. The final thing that I want you to know from emotional intelligence is relationship management. Now, this, we're aware of it, and even through the awareness, we talk about some of the management, but there's a few things that I want to point out when it comes to relationship management, and that's effective communication. Talk about it. We have to, this is so crucial for the marriage, is to talk through these things. I was meeting with a person today, and we were talking about this because they were having some issues in a corporate setting, and so I'm consulting with them, and they're having some issues internally with each other. And one of the things that I asked this person is, I said, have you sat down with all of them and had a meaningful conversation? And actually, they did. In fact, all of them mentioned this, that we sat down and had a very meaningful conversation. And this is where a meaningful conversation is not pointing at the other person and telling them their faults. A meaningful conversation is sitting down together and expressing your feelings, expressing your thoughts, and coming to a resolution and coming together, like we mentioned in the last one on social awareness, is this collaboration together to help get healing. So effective communication is huge, and along with that is conflict resolution. If you're going to have effective communication, you're going to be able to work through and have conflict resolution. That's coming to a solution of how are we going to work this out, especially when it comes to marriage. How are we going to work this problem out? If the problem is between the two of you, there needs to be some conflict resolution. Sometimes the emotions that we express and bring into our relationship is an external thing, but this is how we manage our relationship, is through conflict resolution. And then again, another one is empathy and understanding. We've covered that somewhat, actually quite a bit, talking about empathy and understanding. This is huge when it comes to relationship management in our marriage, is to really have empathy and understanding. I mean, again, empathy is not about agreeing on everything. Empathy is just, if I felt this way, if I felt the way that you're expressing it, I would be over the top as well. Again, it's not, I'm not giving my wife the okay to say, your emotions can be out the roof, just do whatever you want to do. And she's not telling me that. But acceptance is different than an approval. I don't approve of you doing this, but I accept you, and I accept that maybe there's something that we need to talk through, and I need to have empathy for you and understanding. And the fourth thing to relationship management is building trust and respect. This is how we build trust and respect. This is a foundational aspect to any part of your relationship, is trust and respect. We respect them for who they are, and we build this trust. And really, when we build trust with each other, we build a safe zone for that person to communicate with us their problem. If we can't create a safe zone, we're not going to be trusted enough for them to express what their problem is. And finally, again, collaboration and shared goals. when it comes to relationship management in our marriage, let's talk through our goals again. Let's talk through and let's share our goals, our dreams, our hopes. And this really does help foster a sense of unity in our relationship. And when we have unity, we feel bonded, we feel heard, we feel understood, we have unity. And when we have unity, we feel like that we have each other's back. And that if we have each other's back, we can tackle anything. And this is all about influencing a person that we cannot control. So when it comes to relationship management, it's about influence. You know, one of the things that John Maxwell says, he says, leadership, basically the definition of leadership is influence. You need to lead yourself and you need to lead your home. You need to lead conversation, lead conflict. And the way you lead conflict is through influence, not bullying your spouse. It's through influence. It's through modeling. It's through your own self-awareness. It's through your own self-management. That's how we influence. It's called practice what you preach. And here's the thing that I've learned as a pastor and as a minister, and as a person who witnesses. I've heard it said this way: preach every chance you get, and if necessary, use words. In other words, live it. And when it comes to social, emotional, your social awareness, your relationship management, these two are all about the last two, or the first two that we mentioned, and that's social awareness and social management. Because it really is modeling what you expect from your spouse. Model and show emotional intelligence, and when necessary, use words. It really is doing it rather than saying it. I hope this has been helpful the last 3 weeks on the topic of emotional intelligence. You know, whenever it comes to, I can talk for myself here. I can't really speak for anyone else except for just what anyone else tells me. But I've had a tendency in the past to really have trouble managing my emotions. I don't, it's not all the time. It's just every now and then I get frustrated and I get aggravated and I get angry and man, do I ever tell my wife everything about it. She is the most patient person with me, because if I'm experiencing something, not with her, just anything outside of our home, and sometimes even here, in the home, I have a tendency to go overboard, but sometimes I get so frustrated and I vent on her. And she's very patient to sit and listen. She doesn't really say much. She lets me vent, but then she'll usually come back and she has a solution, and it does help me calm. She calms me. And I think that's what we do for each other. It's that influence that we're able to not cause the other person to even go even more overboard by just going off on them for venting, but to help them bring their emotions under management. We can do that for each other. And I think that we need to start that process of learning how to help bring the other person in control, and not forcing them and not pointing at them, but just to help them and influence them in a way. Have empathy and grace, sensitivity to help them bring it. This is all about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. This is ultimately emotional intelligence, and we need to learn to be emotionally intelligent. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I want you to do me a favor. If you have, I want you to go back and I want you to tell someone about it, refer this to someone, send it to someone, and have them listen, watch. And I also want to offer something to you. If I've got a couple things, I'm on our website. I'm getting ready to open up and have a few more items, some merch that you can get, and I'll be sharing that with you later. But I do have a couple things available. One of them is my book called BFF, Becoming Your Spouse's Best Friend Again. I wrote this book out of a session that I had with a couple that was just falling apart. And as I began to maneuver through their issues, I felt like I was failing them. And then all at once I thought, she's lost her best friend. And when I mentioned that to her, she lost it. She began to weep. And at that moment, I understood that there was something behind that, of becoming best friends again. And so this book is all about how to become your spouse's best friend again. Revisiting and, putting things back into place and being intentional about some things to build that relationship again. I think this book would help you tremendously. If you know someone who is struggling in their relationship, or they're newlyweds, or even some couples that need enrichment, this book would be so helpful as a gift, as a Christmas gift. With Christmas coming on, here's a great opportunity. And you can order this through our website at masterlevelmarriage.com. And if you will go to the shop area, you'll find this book, and it's cheaper than Amazon. I've got it marked at a price lower than Amazon, and I'll send it to you for free. All you have to do is go down and order it. Click on our website, go to the shop, and order that book. And I think it'll be amazing. And share it with someone. Another thing that we offer is I have created a 7-part video series. And this video series takes you through 7 steps. And the first 3 steps, I call them foundational steps, and then the last 4 are structural. And I won't go into the full details of that, but it is about strengthening your relationship. And this is a 7-part video series with a workbook. And so it'll take you through 7 modules that will, and many pastors are using this as premarital counseling. All of my students use this, and many of my other clients use it. And what I've found is it's becoming a tool where couples can listen. You're going to pay a lot of money to go to a therapist. And this video series will take you through some of the very things that I teach in therapy, that I teach in my coaching sessions. And it is a phenomenal workbook and video series. And you can get that right now. It's the cheapest it's going to be, the less expensive it's going to be. I'm getting ready to turn it into an online course. And when I do, I'm going to raise the cost of it, because I'm going to be adding some things to it, and I'm going to be adding some video calls with me, some different things like that, and the price will be going up. And right now you can get it for $149 for all 7 parts of it and the workbook. You get all of it for a lifetime. And this could help you tremendously in your relationship. You could purchase for someone else and give it to them as a gift. But again, in the future, this is getting ready to go up. So right now would be the time to purchase it. It's $149, and it is well worth the cost of it, because it is like going to a counseling session. And I just encourage you to get that. Listen, I'm glad you're on here with me today. I can't wait till next week. I'm gonna tell you some stats next week. I've got some statistics I want to give to you about marriage and what's happening in the churches. Now, if you are not in a church, you can still get these. If you're not part of a church, it's fine. You can still understand these stats and what how couples are being taken care of, but this is primarily about in the church and what we're doing and not doing for our couples. So be on the next episode with me as we go into these stats and what this group has come up with through data that they've recovered and what it means to you and me. So I thank you for being on here with me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great hanging out with you, and I can't wait till the next episode. And I always leave you with this: be your best self, live out your full potential, and experience your best marriage. I'll see you on the next show.